Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major! Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios and the films they release. We are on our 1980s New Line miniseries. My name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Charlie Nash.
Hello.
And Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And joining us is our super special guest. Are you the editor-in-chief at Paste Magazine? Is that?
I'm actually editor-in-chief of Jezebel.
Jezebel.
That's right. No.
Okay.
Yeah, editor of movies at Paste Magazine.
Okay, that's where I got to fit. Jacob Oller, how are you, sir? Joining us once again.
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, for just rip-roaring of a time, which is Lucky Stiff from 1988. Released, I think, on November 4th, 1988. I saw two sources that said November 1st, but I looked that up, and that was a Tuesday, so I'm just going to go with November 4th. Not a lot that I could find about this movie. I couldn't figure out how many theaters it went to, the budget, how much money it made, or anything, so... But top 5 films that weekend was They Live, U2 Rattle and Hum, Everybody's All American, which I don't think I've heard of that, The Accused, and Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
Wow.
I've seen those first two movies, They Live and Rattle and Hum. I watched Rattle and Hum for my documentary resolution this year.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, if you like 80s U2 like I do, that will be, like, good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my dad loves you too. I saw Rattle and Hum, like, very young.
Yeah.
I didn't know that They Live was ever number one at the box office. That rules.
Hey, I didn't know any Carpenter was like ever number one. That's pretty surprising.
Yeah.
Besides like Ghosts of Mars, that was like made like half a billy, right? That was like number one like all summer. When did that come out? That had to have been like November.
Everybody was talking about the Ghosts of Mars. That's where the...
It definitely came out during the summer. Figures. I just don't know what. I think it did.
I feel like that's like that screams like first week of November. Hold on, we need to find this out.
I, for the record, like that movie. And know I might be alone in that boat.
Wish I liked that one more.
Yeah.
I find it to be a fascinating aughts time capsule. Like, I find it very endearing for, nobody makes movies like this anymore, let alone, like, Carpenter never made a movie like that up until that point either, and he never did again.
Yeah.
It came out August 24th, 2009.
Oh, that spells confidence in that movie.
Yeah.
Just like
that's like the same weekend that the sequel to Anaconda came out. Yeah.
That's also like,
why do I know
that level of confidence is like the same level of confidence as Lucky Stiff having 3 different taglines on its poster. Like,
oh yeah, let me pull this up real quick. Yeah, a poster that it was really fucking hard to find, but
it also, this other poster, the one on Letterboxd, implies that it's like kind of like a sex, like an R-rated like sex comedy, because it doesn't look like she's clothed at all, and she just has the bow tie on a fork, which I don't even understand what it's going for. Like,
they're gonna eat his clothes too. That's how delicious he is.
Yeah, apparently that's how.
Did you guys see the French poster?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good with Joe Lasky with a big apple in his mouth, like he's a cartoon pig.
Oh God.
Oh wow. Oh, there's 2 of them. Yeah, there's. Oh, wow, I didn't see this one either. I'm dropping this in the chat, but I saw the one that was like a painted one, but this is...
Le Dindon de la Farce, that one.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
You know, the French, they love their farces.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Now all I can think about, because I just watched the Frederick Wiseman doc, is like him being in part of the documentary where they like cook him instead.
Goodness. Where was I at?
It's a little bit dry.
Number 1 song in the U.S. this week is Kokomo by the Beach Boys.
Oof.
From the movie Cocktail. Shout out to Dan Mecca. And number 1 song in Canada this week is A Groovy Kinda Love by Phil Collins. Oh, Phil. Plot description from Google for Lucky Stiff is brother and sister cannibals, that played by Jeff Kober and Donna Dixon, bring a likely candidate, played by Joe Alaska, and home for a family holiday dinner. That's a pretty boring plot description, so I wrote down the IMDb description and said, a plump loser, after being left at the altar by his fiancé, is invited to Christmas dinner by a beautiful woman, but her family are cannibals who intend to have him as the main course. Now that's a plot
Now,
description.
that
okay.
IMDb description sounds mean, but I will also have you know, and it is mean. I will also have you know that pretty much every review or article that I read about Lucky Stiff and trying to read about it made mention of either Olaski's weight as well as made mention of Olaski's weight as well as Donna Dixon's looks. They like that was like every time they mentioned him, like obese Olaski, you know, gorgeous, you know, like Dixon and whatever. It was just like I'm like, okay, I get it. Maybe like you're probably not just like a little bit too much and everything, but it's yeah.
They're all like, this fat shit and Mrs. Dan Aykroyd. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
What are we doing? You don't have to be in the 80s to write about this movie. Because they're all blogs from like 2 years ago.
And it's like formerly Mrs. Dan Aykroyd, because I think they separated, right? Did they?
Yeah. Well.
He probably finally saw this movie.
And she was like, "Didn't you direct Nothing But Trouble?" Yeah, I think we're done here.
Remember when Dan Aykroyd played Britney Spears' dad in Crossroads?
Yeah.
That's something I think about often.
Now you got to go out there because you're not a girl and you're not yet a woman. That's right. Yeah. Written by Pat Proft. Wrote a lot of movies with Jim Abertson and David and Jerry Zucker, including the Naked Gun films. He directed one movie, Wrongfully Accused, in 1998, which he also wrote.
Oh.
A movie I loved when I was 10, and I'm sure would be absolutely insufferable now.
That's the Leslie Nielsen one where it's like a fugitive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've just seen
Yeah.
the clip where it's the train chasing him and like peeking out from behind the rock, which is like a good gag, but that's like the one bit I've seen.
Yeah. It's not one of Leslie Nielsen's better movies. When you're, 10 years old and you think everything is funny, then...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie, do you want like 20 minutes to talk about the Naked Gun movies?
No, I mean, that's the one thing that I was like, well, that and Anthony Perkins directing, where I was like, oh, maybe this could have some moments, and then I was just like, these are barely jokes. Like
Yeah. Do you feel like Pat Proft is like the, hey guys, I have a joke, and the Zucker brothers are just like, yeah, okay, we'll put you that you co-wrote this, all right?
I mean, he has to be, right? Like,
He's just the guy in the room who's like filling dead air. Like
Yeah.
they're like, okay, the no bad ideas guy. Let's just
Yeah.
like get the room lubricated.
Also directed by Anthony Perkins, primarily an actor, of course, but this is his second and final film directed. Prior to this, he directed Psycho 3 in 1986, which I finally watched, and it's watchable. I don't know. It's very much more an 80s Psycho movie than Psycho 2 is. Although Psycho 2 does kind of have some of the sleaze, but Psycho 3 is like a slasher. But it's also like, this is the third movie in a... Well, no. The second one and this one is just like, oh, he's out. What is he going to do? Is he going to snap? And they're just like, no, he's different. And then by the end of it, what do you know? He killed somebody. It's just like, you can't keep getting away with this. But yeah, it was okay.
I'm assuming Psycho 3 at least has personality, though, especially considering, it's so integral to Perkins', life and him as a creative force. This thing, I mean, I was excited for at least to be like, what's he going to be like as a director? And like anybody could have directed this thing. Like there is no style or a sense of any type of inspiration at all with this thing.
I haven't seen it yet, but like, what's the Jurassic Park quotes? Like they were thinking about whether they didn't stop to think if they should or whatever, like should direct it,
I believe for Psycho 3, Anthony Perkins reached out to the director of Psycho 2. Who is that did Road Games?
Richard Franklin.
Yeah, reached out to him and be like, hey, you want to co-direct this? And he was like, no! So, starring Joe Olaski as Ron Douglas. Prior to this, he was the voice of Yosemite Sam in Who Framed Roger Rabbit in 1988, 68 episodes of Out of This World from 1987 to 1991. After this, mostly known as a voice actor, did the voice of Daffy Duck in the 90s and early 2000s, and most importantly to me, did the voice of Grandpa Lou Pickles on Rugrats. So,
Holy shit, I didn't know that.
Well, after the original one died, he was like a pinch hitter, like a classic voice acting pinch hitter. He like showed up whenever people died to do their voice.
Well, yeah. That's got to be weird. Just be like, the legendary voice died today, and he's just sitting by the phone just like, I can do this. I can do this.
Jackie Gleason's gone, no problem. David Doyle, original voice of Grandpa Lou Pickles.
Okay.
I'm in.
Isn't like half of the episodes with Grandpa Lou Pickles in them are like now Grandpa watched Tommy, and he's like, all right, and then he's asleep in 10 seconds. Yeah.
Which, hell yeah.
No, Joe Lasky, known for his amazing snore, his fucking lifelike snore. Everyone's like, damn, that guy can snore.
Get him on the phone.
Yet that family keeps putting...
Get him on the horn.
And they keep putting that grandpa in charge of the babies who then cause havoc in every episode.
Let's put him behind this gate that they always break out of, that is easily to break out
Joe
of.
Lasky, I need you to snore through this episode while these babies reenact Hanukkah.
Rugrats is great. Remember when they got all grown up and they looked like fucking Cronenberg creatures and shit?
Yeah, it was upsetting.
Remember when they went
They
CG?
looked like Tim Burton guys because their heads were so huge and their bodies were really tiny. They all had little...
Yeah.
It sucks.
And it's, they're barely the same characters, but also, like, I would have loved an all grown up if it was actually, like, realistic about them being teenagers. Like, one of them's gay, one of them's addicted to drugs. Like,
one of them's super into new metal.
Yeah.
Oh,
the time would have been appropriate. I think that they grew up around, like, 2001 anyway. So.
Yeah. Let's see. And Donna Dixon as Cynthia Mitchell prior to this. 37 episodes of Bosom Buddies from 1980 to 82. Twilight Zone, the movie in 1983. Spies Like Us in 1985. After this, Wayne's World in 1992. Nixon in 1995. And The Sweet Blood of Jesus in 2014.
Oh fuck. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I don't think she was a lead, but... yeah, it was really weird. There was like a 12-year gap, and then Spike Lee, and then like nothing else. It was really weird.
Who was she in Wayne's World too?
I think she's like cameo. Like, I think it said her role was Dream Woman, so I'm pretty sure it was just a cutaway gap.
Man, that's a little bit sad. I think one of the reviews I saw that was positive for this movie from the time that it was being reviewed on home video said like, oh yeah, it shows like real range. It looks like there will be like better roles for her on the horizon. I'm like, not so sure about that. Like, or I'm not so sure that was like the career path that was that laid out for her, unfortunately. Or, like, that's not what happened for her. I will say, I don't think anyone could be good with this material. Like, not to give my thoughts on that, but, like, it's...
Joe Lasky is like... He's got 2 ropes, and he is pulling this movie like a tiger.
Yeah, he really is.
And it's amazing how bad he and it still are.
Yeah.
He's like pulling the rope, but like it's against his neck. He's pulling it like back against his neck. He's strangling himself with the rope.
Really,
like,
God, it's really terrible.
Yeah.
Don Dixon's fine in this, though.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I only know her from a gag from the first episode of Simpsons where Homer has to list all of the reindeers, and at the end he just has Donna Dixon, and they say, "Sit down, Homer."
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Trivia. I only have one trivia fact. The original title was Mr. Christmas Dinner, which is honestly a better title than Lucky Stiff.
It's more honest.
Yeah. Bryden, did you did some sleuthing? What did you find?
I tried. I mean, Perkins, like, in this Fangoria article that I found from, like, when the movie was being reported on, it just sounds like he was, like, the wrong choice for this. I mean, because I think they talked about in one of the articles, like, how, like, Psycho 3, I mean, you watched it, Kevin, like, it sounds like it's a pretty violent movie, like, it's pretty gory, at least.
Oh, yeah.
But, like,
oh, hell yeah.
Perkins seemed kind of averse to all that. Like, he said, like, I don't really respond to the subject of cannibalism either, and I consider myself a good choice for this because I felt I could work around the cannibalism. I'm like, well... yeah, but, like, the movie's not scary, and then he's talking about how it's a comedy first and foremost. I'm like, yeah, but the comedy's bad, so, like, the movie fails on both fronts.
Doesn't he say that he's like, this movie's got things that I, Anthony Perkins, straight-laced nerd, hate. He's like, this movie about cannibalism and incest, and you're like, there is a lot of cannibalism and incest in this movie. And it's so boring, and you can tell the director hated that the movie had cannibalism and incest.
Well, yeah, it's PG. I mean, and it's which
it's insane.
Hamstrings it. It's like and it was one of the reviews that I read. It was like a home video reviews. They compared it to the Bob Balaban movie Parents, which is also about cannibals, which is a fantastic horror comedy and actually like genuinely creepy and like funny and like has like a consistent tone throughout and like visual panache and everything, and I'm like thinking, yeah, like, I mean, I wouldn't have thought to compare about it, although, like, Parents came out in 1989 around this time this movie was coming out on home video and everything. It's just like, wow, yeah, like that, like, just, like, completely blows this movie Lucky Stiff out of the water. But yeah,
I was also thinking about eating Raoul while watching this movie too.
I need to see that. Yeah,
which is a good one. Yeah, also cannibalism comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back when we used to do like props at like the opening of our episodes where it's like, what are your favorite movies about work? It's like, what are your favorite cannibalism comedies? Imagine when you're doing that, just like sitting around 20 minutes just that one each.
Say you were a cannibal. Hypothetical. Let me throw that out there.
Trouble every day.
Where would I start? Yeah.
Trouble every day. So funny.
That one episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Dee and Charlie think they're cannibals.
that was the first episode I ever saw of that show. And I was like, sold.
Oh my god.
Ravenous has jokes, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, Ravenous is a dark comedy.
Yeah, I need to watch it. I need to watch that.
I'm surprised you haven't seen that one, Kevin. That seems up your alley.
Yeah,
I know.
That's like right down the middle for you.
God damn it. Okay.
But also, like, why is this a Christmas movie? Like, I don't understand why this is a Christmas movie at all.
I mean, it's barely a Christmas movie. Like, the house has
like
Christmas lights.
It like there are so many details in the script that like get you that like justify a plot that doesn't make sense in the first place. They're like, it's a Christmas movie, obviously, because all of the cannibals are getting together for Christmas dinner, so they have to eat a fat guy, and you're like, no, sorry. What?
Yeah.
Why not Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
The traditional eating holiday. Excuse me?
Make any sense. And they don't even, not to get too ahead of ourselves, but I was like, it's funny how this is the kind of movie where I was like, God, I wish I was at those locations that they were filming, but I was also like, wow, they don't utilize the settings or a sense of place in this thing at all. But I was just like, that looks like a nice place to like, hunker down for a nice few days, but they don't even make it that appealing. It's like me looking at stuff in the background that the shot is not even like trying to focus on.
Yeah. Nice house. Shame about the cannibals living there.
Real shame. Yeah.
Hey, cool ski lodge. I guess dining hall. Too bad that all the slopes seem to be from unrelated footage.
It's a shame all the kids here are assholes.
Just the one kid who's like, I will kill this man.
And then he was just like, I will drown you in chocolate pudding unless Lin Shaye comes by and tells me to stop.
That was the funniest bit of the whole movie where I was like, this guy's gonna kill a kid.
Yeah, that was the one part where I was like, okay, this has potential. Like, it would have been funny if the kid died and then she was like, no, I just fell in there. And
My
then
bad,
they just
Lin
brushed
Shaye.
it off.
I saw Willy Wonka. Yeah.
Doesn't he even call him Porky Pig? Is that supposed to be a
Yes.
joke, like an in-joke of like, he voiced Porky Pig? Like, is that supposed to be the...
I don't think this movie's that smart, Charlie.
Yeah.
I don't think.
No, I really don't think that.
So I got a few
Sorry.
quotes that really like just make me think about like, man, like it doesn't even sound like the makers of this movie were that confident. So the DP of this movie, Jacques Haitkin, he apparently shot, speaking of New Line Connections that we often find in this miniseries so far, he shot Nightmare on Elm Street, which we'll talk about later in this miniseries.
That's wild.
In this Fangoria article, it says, Haitkin points out that if Perkins positions the actors on the marks he wants for the upcoming shot, they won't really be in the same places they were in a scene shot several days earlier. Perkins admits he's well aware of that, but says if the audience is paying attention to small details of that nature, Perkins and Haitkin have lost the battle for their attention already. I just wrote in brackets, yep. I mean, like, it is like a weird thing where, like, characters are, like, jumping out of the frame, surprise each other. I'm like, I feel like the way the scene's set up, like, you would be in full view of that person. Like, like, at the end of the movie when, like, the one brother's wife is, like, attacking Jeff Kober and everything, I'm like, can't Kober like see that she's right in front of him in that tree or whatever? She's like jumping up like she's coming like side, like jackknifing him or whatever.
There's like a lot of hiding and like jump, not scares, but like jump punchlines that make no visual sense because the camera just doesn't move. Anthony Perkins doesn't know that it can move.
Yeah.
Also, by the end of this thing, there's no snow on the ground anymore. Did anyone else notice that? That all of a sudden it just looks like they shot it in the middle of like...
Oh yeah, it's a summertime
Well,
shootout.
like,
Classically,
they start out
your Christmas
They
movie.
start out in like Covina or wherever the hell, or wherever that lodge is. They start in Covina, then he goes to that lodge, and then they fly to wherever her family is based. So I guess like they fly far enough away that like it's not snowy there, but like yeah, it's not really much atmosphere. Oh right, no, right, you're right that there's snow because like there's are I'm honestly, the movie's a bit of a jumble. I can't remember which part of the movie.
No, it's fading. It, like Kevin mentioned before we started recording, like it's dissipating like by the second. There's very few things to grasp onto in this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I really remember is they go to like some store at like I guess like 3 a.m. or something and look at jackets. That's something that happens.
That was crazy. I was like, nobody affiliated with this movie has ever been to a small town. They were like, we're going down to the local store to get some Christmas presents, and it's like when they're talking about it's midnight. When they're driving, it looks like it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And they arrive at somebody's house basically, and the house has like like an intercom built in, like a PA system.
Sure.
That's like hello all shoppers, and you're like, this is a living room. What are you talking about? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
It's not small town America. This isn't just like for shopping. We just go to the nearest hillbilly and loot their closet.
I do love movies that are like, this is what poor people do, right? Like, it's just
Drink water from near radioactive waste sites. That's.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of sets that like you were saying, Charlie, that like are kind of like striking. It's like that never really comes back into the movie. Like they set it up like it's gonna be like this big thing. It's like no.
So many things don't pay off in this movie.
That never comes back. The cow statue.
Oh god.
That he fucks and fucks him never comes back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was very strange.
Did anyone else think Paul Blart Mall Cop while watching this at times? Because the cow scene, I was like, this is like this. Did this predict Paul Blart Mall Cop? Like that? It's that type of humor.
I haven't seen Paul Blart in like 15 years, so I don't remember.
All the physical comedy is like trash tier Sandler stuff. And then all of the running gags, because Joe Lasky never shuts up. It's like 80 solid minutes of Joe Lasky just like riffing.
Yeah.
All of that stuff feels like Rodney Dangerfield is on Quaaludes wandering through a film.
Yeah, there was a retrospective on Pop Matters by Bill Gibron where he was talking about movies that like Lucky Stiff that were kind of like abandoned by pop culture. I would say in this case rightfully so. But he talks about like how he describes Alasky's performance as saying, why Joe Alasky never got another leading role after this film is just plain flummoxing. Not if you see this movie. He is amazing here, doing the sad sack, unlucky, and love loser bit with just enough self-effacing irony to keep his character from becoming a total creep. I'm like, you're right though, Jacob. Like he never stops making jokes or like weird quips, even like in like the most dangerous moments. I'm like, it is way too much. It is more than enough.
There's like knives flying at him. There's like body parts he's holding where he's like.
Yeah. He gets drugged multiple times. He gets
drugged
multiple times.
He wakes up and he's like, man, when I'm around you, I sleep a lot anyways.
That's an actual line.
My favorite part of the whole movie is
when he pretends to have sex with his fiance.
Joe Lasky, I mean, that was crazy. Joe Lasky, somehow, a shapeless man with no personality, somehow lands Donna Dixon. He's like, this is amazing. I've landed this cannibal woman. I don't know that yet. I'm flying to meet her parents. The second he walks in the door to meet her family, he like starts eye fucking his like her brother's wife.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, hello, bang-a-da-dang-a-da-dang. And you're like, what? You just got here with your hot date.
Was that a leftover sound effect from Lucky Stiff? I mean, that seems like, that is like the level of this movie where the button pops off.
Sorry,
it's like,
was that's copyrighted. I'm sorry, you have to strike this or your podcast will be taken down.
Not to mention, he literally got like left at the wedding altar, like, and then Donna Dixon immediately comes into his life. And
he keeps, I don't know how this man keeps running into and conning these beautiful women. Are they all trying to eat him, do you think?
Maybe. His fiance
like
leaves him at the altar, and then he's just like, well, what a shame. Anyways, I still got presents, so that kicks ass.
That scene, they couldn't even come up with a joke for that scene. Like,
no.
Like it's not a joke for her to be like, bye. Like,
yeah, I was wondering, I was like, why are you leaving this dude? Give me like a cool reason. Are you like gonna go hook up with like a bodybuilder, or because there's like a guy we meet at the ski lodge who's like, I'm into spray tanning or regular tanning and my hair is nuts. I have this like carefully curated mullet. Like there's just like 80s mega douche, and I was like, oh my God, this would be a perfect time for another 80s mega douche
Yeah.
to be in this movie, but alas.
Also, did they just go to the same altar? Like, it's like everyone at that wedding chapel just didn't leave for like a day. They were like, maybe he'll come back.
They're like, Ron will pull this off. He always does. He'll be back. He'll be back with another
they're
one.
in the exact same positions.
The movie not only starts with him getting left at the altar, it starts with him doing a trying on montage of suits, and none of them fit because he is fat. And none of them fit in like the dumbest way possible, where you're like, oh, of course he went to a custom tailor who wouldn't have any idea how to dress somebody to their size. So they're just like a button is hitting this guy in the eye, or
They're cowering in fear at the size of this man.
Do they even?
yeah, they're like, oh, white giant man.
Do they even have any lines? I'm pretty sure it's just like reaction shots.
No, they just have reaction shots. It's so upsetting.
The only lines they have is, "Hello, cops, please come here."
I mean,
But
yeah, and it really is like the thing, like Perkins not knowing how to play this movie. I mean, like, again, it's the thing of like, why did he make this movie? Because he says like he wanted to diffuse the horrific elements and play up the broad humor, which involves incest as well as cannibalism, as we mentioned. He says those are taboo subjects. To combine them with violent attitudes was an inescapable no. I not only wanted to mute and remove the violence, I really wanted to play down these subjects. I'm like, why'd you make this movie then? Like, it doesn't make sense.
I have a theory.
Okay.
That Anthony Perkins is a dweeb, first and foremost, and that's easily provable.
Yeah.
But number two, I think he was associated with horror for so long that Psycho 3, he's like, I'll lean in. This movie, he's like, I know how. I'll destroy it from the inside. I'll kill horror movies.
Well, he does talk about how he's like worried about like where horror movies are going, like, you know, in like this Cinema Fantastique, where he like says like, you know, he thinks like he's very critical of splatter films, which he called a dangerous trend, as well as bad movie making. Talks about how numbing that is. That's like basically like quoting it, and it's like, yeah, some of those are better directed than this. Like, it's
yeah.
He made this the same year the remake of The Blob came out. Okay,
fuck, I need to
Oh,
see
wow.
that.
Come on.
Yeah.
it fucking kicks ass.
It's gross as hell and a lot of fun. The special effects hold up. But even, like, I'm thinking back, too, because, yeah, we keep bringing up, obviously, cannibalism, but also incest. Why, like, it doesn't need to be about... Incest is, like, kind of an afterthought, and the only reason I can think of it even being included and why Anthony Perkins would want to include it is because Psycho has some incestuous, like, hintings at, but, like, it has no need to be in this movie at all.
Yeah, and it doesn't even really say anything. Like, I mean, I think of another sort of gross out, like, horror quasi-comedy movie from, like, this era of, like, Society, the Brian Yuzna movie, where, like, that movie is, like, dealing with, like, you know, and, like, I guess, like, that movie, like, where there is incest and eating people and everything, there is, like, you know, kind of, like, a comment on, like, just how fucking gross and, like, you know, insular the rich and, high society people are, and, like, how just over the top disgusting they are, and, like, how, like, the main character, he's like, I'm fine with being an outsider because this is fucking weird. Like, whatever you're doing and everything. And in this movie, I mean, I don't know, like, the glamorous people who are, I don't know, wealthy and look nice, like Donna Dixon, turn out to be evil, whereas the guy who feels like he's a loser is normal, I guess, even though he kind of sucks, in my opinion, but I don't know.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know about you guys, I'm trying to hang out with these incestuous cannibals instead of this guy.
Well, I hope that did not sound like that's what I was saying. I was in favor of.
It's so weird because it even undermines that, like, thematic reading, because it's not like Donna Dixon her character is what, Cynthia? So Cynthia and her weird brother. Well, Cynthia's like the only one who is glamorous. All the other ones are like messed up hill people who everyone's like, oh, welcome to the hoedown. We're in the real boonies now. And like,
Yeah.
Joe Lasky is as guilty as everybody else in the movie as being like, God, I'm out in the sticks around all these, you know, bottom feeders now.
yeah.
I will say the one guy who does look a little bit fancier than some of his other family members is the brother Darrell, who's like, I think says like he studied like the ministry or something, which also shows he's weird, I guess, because like, you know, like maybe he's got this weird kind of religious fanaticism to him, and he's the one with like the wife that that Alasky lays eyes on. But yeah, everyone else, like, yeah, it's like very, very much like, country stereotypes. It's interesting too, at this is like, as we said, Perkins' last movie. It's interesting reading like the quote from Fangoria, where it's like, I don't think, he died of HIV like only a few years after this and everything. He didn't make that public until like not long before his death. But he says, like, it's just interesting to hear him like talk about like with like real clarity about his own sense of mortality. Perkins, he says, whatever happens, happens. Whatever I end up doing, I'll keep doing, or I'll change my mind. I'm not a long-range plan guy, not a 5-year plan guy. I'm very much a minute-to-minute guy. I've been lucky enough to live this long. I think with most men who live to be a half a century plus, if you've been accorded a few extra years, you tend to try to make the best of them by not being too uptight about it all. So my entire philosophy of life is very relaxed. I think that's like a really nice quote. I mean, this movie's not good, but like it's I don't know. I think that's like, I do have like a bit of respect for Perkins, taking that approach to life and everything. Just sort of like, well, why not just like try this and everything while I have this time on Earth? I don't know. It's a nice quote, even though I don't like this movie and everything. And yeah.
I like that quote too. I think it makes a lot of sense that he would say it after shooting this, especially if it's like a movie that was crewed with a bunch of like studio folks who are like just journeymen who go from like new line to new line movie. If they're like, this is how movies are done, you go here, you do this, you shoot this, it has to make sense. And Anthony Perkins like, no, man, slow your roll. I've had to be the psycho guy for so long. Just let me like fuck around with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it makes sense that when he would be doing interviews, he would emphasize, he's like, I was the most relaxed one on set, and I don't understand why people can't have this philosophy.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the New Line connection, because I did want to mention it as a bit of trivia, and we'll get into initial thoughts. I'm sorry for taking up any time, but so I mentioned this was not a New Line connection, but I noticed that one of the second unit DPs on this was Don Burgess, who later became one of Robert Zemeckis' DPs. I think he shot like Castaway and What Lies Beneath and Allied and stuff, which are some gorgeous looking movies. Also, Russell Carpenter, who was credited on digital camera. He shot Titanic, True Lies, Hard Target, Ant-Man, Avatar: Way of Water. He also was the second unit DP on Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Child. The third unit DP on Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Master. Did additional photography for Critters. So it is like really cool, like the extensive like New Line connections that are there. And it's just funny how like we keep running into that, like really like working with like the same crew members, or like just getting like all the same people.
Working with people that are working on movies, you're like, hey, I'd rather be watching that. I want to watch even like the second worst Nightmare on Elm Street movie over Lucky Stiff.
When the creator of Police Academy and the director of Psycho 3 put their heads together, there's only one way to describe the results. A comedy.
If anyone here has reason why these two should not be joined. Lee! I don't think she understood the question.
Yes, I did.
About a big guy and a beautiful girl. And when she brought him home for the holidays,
Don't lose any weight. Not enough.
What if your parents don't like me?
I guarantee you they'll eat you.
they made him feel like one of the family.
Oh, gee, your hand's freezing. Better get some clothes before it falls off.
But there was something strange about them.
Glad to meet our guests for Christmas dinner.
Will he discover their secret
We love people. We know how good they really are.
before supper time?
How does dinner look?
You look delicious.
I'm not a guest. I'm the buffet.
Lucky Stiff.
Nothing a cold shower and a rub down with steel wool wouldn't cure.
I mean, we've talked about, if you just want to give Capsule initial thoughts, I have no initial thoughts other than movie bad. So, Charlie, what did you,
I mean, yeah.
if you can remember this movie, do you have initial thoughts?
I still have some moments lodged in my brain somehow. Yeah, it's a terrible movie. I mean, like, if you're interested in Anthony Perkins and, you know, his work as an artist, I'd say seek it out, but otherwise, like, there's nothing. I mean, I texted Kevin and Bryden that it's just the whole movie's just that joke in The Simpsons where Homer just goes, "I'm a terrible father," and Patty and Selma go, "You're all so fat." This whole movie is. I mean, it feels bad to like kick a movie that doesn't exist like this down and just be like it's awful and Anthony Perkins directed it because like it's not like it truly is awful. and at the same time it doesn't exist, so it's like it's like one of those things where it's like you don't need to bring this into it. Like I don't know, like it's exactly what you might think it is or if you're curious about it and you watch 5 or 10 minutes and you go, is this what this movie is? Yeah, that it just keeps being this for another 70 minutes, and then it's just kind of sad.
Yeah.
Brian?
I thought this was terrible. I think it's like the kind of movie where like it was like 82 minutes. I checked, like, I was like, when did the credits start rolling? 78 minutes? Because I think you and Charlie watched this before me, and I was like, and Jacob, you watched this before me, and I was like, okay, I need to know, like, when the credits start rolling. And I was, like, just still checking, like, sort of, like, moving my cursor down, and like, so I have, like, another 30 minutes left? Okay, that's, like...
I know.
Often when that happens, I'm like, that's, like, just a little bit longer than a sitcom episode, you know? I'm just like... yeah, it's just, like, terrible. I mean... Oh, the thing that really signals how bad this movie is going to be is, like, the music that starts up, where it's, like, all, like, the bells of, like, the sliding strings and, like, the jingly twinkles that keep topping off, like, the melodies. I'm just like, oh, no, you're already, like, putting too much salt on, like, the sandwich to, like, make this, like, seem, like, peppy and or anything. It's just, like, dreadfully underlining every terrible joke. And, like, the jokes, like you said, Charlie, are not even jokes. It's kind of, like, the annoying thing, like, in some comedies where it's just, like, well, if I say something that's just really transgressive in of itself, like, that'll be enough, right? Like, you know, like, when they say, like, you know, even Hitler had a girlfriend and everything, when, like, they're talking about, like, to underline just, like, I guess, I don't know how pathetic, like, Alasky's life is, and I'm like, it's not really funny. And then, like, but then, like, they're like, well, let's do it again. Like, we'll keep, like, hammering that home and everything. Like, they keep asking, like, how his groin is, and, like, keep saying, oh, he's alone, and, you know, at his table. It's just, like, not funny the third time. Yeah.
Also, in regards to that, don't they also, like, is the joke that they don't know who Ava Braun is? Because don't they, like, just say, like, I bet she had a mustache or something, like, stupid, and it's just like, okay, so you're also all idiot. Like, I don't, what is this? Like...
Yeah, it's just, and that Pop Matters piece that I cited, they said, like, that the movie... I would love to know if this movie did actually have a minor cult following, as it says, because I had never heard of this movie before we did our miniseries, and it's also hard to find outside of, like...
I mean, you can start a cult with, like, 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, but they were talking about, like, it's like, you know, started a cult thanks to its quotable dialogue, and they cited the lines of, like, the Porky Pig quip, and also the Hitler had a girlfriend thing. I'm like, I feel like if I said those, like, just, like, as a casual conversation, like a secret handshake or something,
remember?
I get punched
Lucky
in the face.
Why are you calling the cops?
Yeah. Imagine going up and calling someone who is overweight Porky Pig in the year 2023. No one's gonna be like,
yo, it's from the movie Lucky Stiff from 1988. Why are you punching me?
You don't remember, like, the horse-drawn carriage? I'll sit outside, keep the horses running. Come on,
hilarious.
That's my top tier material.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, there's, like, bits where, like, I'm, like, it's, like, I mean, like, you know that the movie's going for funny because, like, every performance is, like, just, like, pitched to 11 and everything, where, like, they're, like, just, like, you know, arching their eyebrows and, like, squawking their dial, like, at top volume, and, like, you know, to make sure, like, you get that this is meant to be funny. But, like, scenes just, like, will, like, end with, like, weird buttons and everything, where, like, it'll just be, like, dead air, like, for like, a few seconds or anything, and then it'll just, like, cut to them, like, going somewhere, and it's just, like... The buttons aren't even, like, really good punchlines. It's, like, really lazy.
It's like they aren't even written to have an ending. It's like the scenes just give up, and then they're just, like, cut, and then they're like, that's it, and then everyone in front of and behind the camera is just kind of like, I guess. Like, it's not even...
What more do you want from us?
Yeah.
And the timing is off because, like, the staging is off, too, and everything, where, like, characters are reacting to each other. But, like, and even though, like, you see in the movie that is in front of you that they are sharing the same frame, it doesn't seem like they are or anything. Like, I mean, like I said, like, with the tree bit where, like, you know, at the end of the movie, like, you know, when Francis is, like, fighting Ike and everything, it's, like, saying he shouldn't be, like, he shouldn't be, like, you know, sideswept by her and everything, like, jumping out of that tree and everything, because, like, he can probably see, like, right in front of her that, like, she's, like, standing in that tree, like, right there. It's so bizarre. And...
On that, can I say also
Please,
on that note,
yeah.
the insanely blocked scene where they go to the post office and they get all the packages that are so clearly like limbs and whatnot.
That seems
like
kind of funny. That's like a funny idea where like the obviousness of the body parts is like kind of the joke.
Yeah,
but like
except that like the person, like they're not even, the guy at the post office isn't even looking at the people that he should be looking at the entire time. And I get that that's part of the joke, but it's also like none of this makes any sense whatsoever. Like,
yeah, it's
because it's like at one point he's like staring them down, and then he's just like, you can't toss packages that way, and I'm like, I get that that's the joke, but like you're not even looking at like the person that you're supposed to be. Yeah,
it doesn't milk it for like proper tension like a good black comedy would. The scene ends like 30 seconds later, like after like that, after he like sees it, like the span of him like them putting packages down, that guy seeing it, thinking it's weird, and then approaching them. Like that takes place like so quickly and everything, and then the scene's just over. It's just like, God, you're not even like the minorest bits of this movie that are amusing, like just like don't work. I realize minorest is not a word. The most minor bits in this movie are like just like they don't work. Like the happy and like the movie also like having a happy ending. It's again one of those things where it's just like this movie, like if anything, should be. I don't want it to be meaner because I don't want more fat jokes against the expense of this character, even though he is very unlikable in the movie. I mean, dislike him for that reason. It's like
that's the thing though, is like it's mean because it's safe, and like I know that sounds like an oxymoron. It kind of is, but like it's ultimately like if it was trying to be darker or more self-aware, it would actually be less offensive.
Yeah, it's got no teeth. It's like full of birthday card jokes.
Yeah.
It's like it's
great comparison. Yeah.
Birthday card jokes.
It's just running through birthday card jokes like nonstop, and with subject matter like this, you think, why choose a subject matter if you're going to run through the softest softballs you could possibly get, just like make any other movie.
Yeah, and
right?
why'd have a happy ending? Like, I mean, I knew that it was going to have a happy ending, I guess, because, like, I knew when, like, Frances started laughing at Lasky's jokes, I was like, well, she must like it, because, like, these jokes are not fucking funny. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It would have been funny if, like, she had turned out to be, like, also a cannibal or whatever. Like, there was some closet weirdo or anything like it.
Yeah.
But, like...
Oh, no.
Yeah, the film also implies that it's a happy ending for her, which is even more dark, in my opinion. That, like...
Yeah.
At least if you're with the cannibals, you wouldn't be bored. Like, I don't know. Can you imagine just Oleski's stick for eternity?
Gosh. Yeah. And like, I mean, I gave this, like, 1.5 stars, because it is truly fucking bad. But, like, there are, like... I didn't see Psycho 3. I'm probably not going to watch it, because, like, the word on it is, like, not especially positive and everything. But, like, it might have been... This movie is, like, dire whenever it tries to be funny. I feel like the moments where it does work or show any kind of stylistic flair is when it is trying to be kind of moody. Like, when they go to visit that small town shop, yeah, it's, like, riddled with, like, small town stereotypes and everything. But it is, like... There is, like, some... I do get some sense of stylistic choice when, like, the guy is, like, completely in shadow, and, like, he's only in the light when he's, like, just talking to, like, this couple and everything. And then, like, the moment they go inside the store, he's immediately recedes into the shadow. So I'm like, okay, it's kind of a cliched choice and everything. Like, I've seen, like, a lot of movies that do that. It's, like, shadows equal ominous mood and everything. But, like, it's, like, there's, like, something going on here. Whereas, like, some semblance of timing with suspense and that one, like, bit and everything, but, like, then, like, the comedy is just, like, dreadful. I mean, it's just, like, and it's, like, the Perkins, like, saying, like, that's, like, the thing that he really became interested in. It's just, like, that's, like, what dooms this movie. It's, yeah, just dire. I've been talking a lot about this. I'm curious, Jacob, what, you chose this movie to talk about it, right? I'm curious what, like, sort of why you gravitated towards it and coming on the show again. We're happy to have you, of course. I'm
curious
what struck you.
Well, one, because I'm stupid as hell. Proudly.
No.
Been dumb a long time. Looking forward to being dumb for a lot longer. But I think, like everybody, I was curious to see if Anthony Perkins had any chops. And my theory for this movie is, well, one, he has no chops, and two, this is not an Anthony Perkins movie. This is a Pat Proft movie.
Yeah.
He was totally, completely railroaded by this Pat Proft auteur project, where he's like, I am going to make the worst Zucker Abrams Zucker movie you have ever seen, and it will be my little project. because he didn't direct a movie for another like decade. So I imagine he had like a first time, or I guess a second time director, and who was interested in comedy. He was like a known comedy guy. I'm sure he was like, just stick with me, Perkins. We're gonna really make something hilarious. And it is like his film the whole way through, and it sucks. It's so bad. But Proft and Joe Alasky are like best buddies on this movie because it's like a nonstop comedy fest, and there's no visual sense. Like there's like one visual gag, and it's that body parts in the mail
Yeah.
scene that you mentioned earlier, and that is one, like the closest the film gets to being funny. I was like, oh, it's a gag. Finally, a gag. Look, a gag. But it's also one that I don't think any director had to have any input in.
No.
Like that is so clear in my mind how you would lay that out in the script. It's like it's like two sentences. It's like all the packages are clearly body parts, and the prop person's like, yeah, no problem, dude. I know what to do with this. I got a bunch of those lying around. And then even the mood that you mentioned, like, I don't think Perkins had anything to do with that, just because we know who the cinematographer was. We know what his background is. I'm sure Perkins was like, okay, it's at night and it's kind of spooky. And the guy's like, say no more, my man. I got it.
Yeah.
I'm good. I've done this a billion times. I think Anthony Perkins was just around for this movie, which is unfortunately very disappointing, because that's what I was interested in seeing, is if he had any, any personality to bring behind the camera.
Yeah, and it's the thing. I mean, yeah, he quoted like about like the Pat Proft script. He said like, not that I was trying to put my stamp on it or my imprint. I was just trying to make his work slightly more along with lines of how I thought the picture would work as material. I'm like, you didn't want to put your imprint on it? You're the director, dude. Like, it's
not at all. He looks at this thing and he was like, Pat Proft, you mad genius. Now to just pour my whole milk all over it because I'm an idiot.
How did this movie get pitched? Like there's so many, like, that old saying of like usually people
fat
come
people,
in,
right?
Go on. But it's also like if X and Y had a baby, that would be my movie. Like, what two movies did they pick for like like pitching this? Like,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2? Yeah. You know how it's gory and funny? Yeah. What if it was neither of those things? How much do you need?
Pat Proft was doing all sorts of like high concept comedies in like this era. So like maybe it was just, okay, we've got Police Academy, we've got Real Genius, we've got Moving Violent, we've got like all of these comedies that are just like set in a place. Do you have any other comedy ideas? And he's like, what if it is a spitballing, and he just thought of, maybe he just read about the Donner Party or something.
Yeah, I will say Real Genius is actually like a pretty solid movie and everything, but that's also why, like, Martha Coolidge, who was like an experienced director at that point, and like has Val Kilmer, like, megawatt movie star performance at this lead and everything, not Joe Alasky, being directed by a second time director who doesn't even really seem keen on making choices as a director. It's yeah.
But also Naked Gun, the first one, came out the same year, so like,
yeah,
I mean, the TV show was on.
Year?
Yeah, the same year.
Wow.
I mean, the TV show came from the Files of the Police Squad came first, but
which Proft worked on. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Something I found interesting about Proft's work is because I was like, well, if we can't learn anything about Anthony Perkins' future work, because there was none, we can learn maybe from his future work. And then I learned he wrote on every Scary Movie sequel after 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Pretty dope.
And I was like, this is so illuminating.
Those are, whoa. I saw
Even
Scary
wrote-
Movie 3 maybe 3 times in theaters. It's the epitome of comedy
I
at the time.
love the idea of like a fun young writer's room making the 5th Scary Movie sequel in 2013, and you have a 60-year-old Pat Proft in there being like, I know some jokes.
Yeah.
I made a movie with Anthony Boykins.
And then 10 years later,
The kids.
10 years later,
They
he's,
love Lindsay Lohan jokes.
10 years later, he's like, I worked with the guy who created Chernobyl when he was writing comedy movies. Okay, Grandpa, let's get you to bed.
I keep forgetting Scary Movie 5 existed, and I'm looking up the cast right now. So I didn't know Simon Rex came back. Ashley Tisdale is in this. Molly Shannon is in this one.
I think like nobody from like 1 through 4 is in 5.
I wrote Mr. Magoo, which the director of Police Story 3 directed.
But No, Simon Rex came back after 3 and 4 to be in 5. He's the only recurring cast member, and thank God he's doing better work now.
I will say one thing that I just forgot about. We didn't see Anthony Perkins direct again after this, but I was remembering. Oh yeah, his son Oz Perkins is now like a horror director. He did like Black Coat's Daughter and Gretel and Hansel. I like Black Coat's Daughter. Yeah. I thought that was solid when I saw it at the time, but I haven't seen his other work.
I was bored by that movie. Yeah, but I would never.
People dig the shit out of it.
Some people love it, so maybe I was in a mood. I don't know. And it had little Sally.
I like that movie.
It had little Sally Draper killing people and some. Yeah. So maybe I don't know. Yeah.
But I'm way more hot on I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. I like that movie a lot.
That's a Netflix movie. I need to see that.
That's a good Netflix right there.
Huh. I'm gonna have to watch Hansel and Gretel, which
people are all over the place on that one.
It was a pre-pandemic movie too, like right before the pandemic, which is weird.
Oh my God, and he acted in Nope. I forgot.
Huh?
Really?
Yeah. He was he was the director. He was like the commercial director that like came in.
Oh.
I do know that he is the weird guy in Legally Blonde in their group. That's the only acting that I know from Oz Perkins. Yes. He's currently also in Not Another Teen Movie, but I don't remember that.
There's a subplot. Remember, there's a subplot in Legally Blonde 2 where she finds out that her dog is gay. Remember that?
No, I don't. I never saw Legally Blonde 2.
There's I saw it back when it came out. The only thing I remember about it is like our dogs won't stop humping each other, and they bring it to like some sort of specialist or professional, and they're like, your dogs are gay, and I'm just like, what?
Is it like a Chihuahuas are gay, but like a big dog's not gay joke?
I think.
Or is it like more tasteful?
I have no
idea.
Early
2000s tasteful? I mean, it had to be.
I don't know. It's Legally Blonde. Who knows what the creation was like?
The second one is woof. It's like they forgot it was a comedy, and they're just like, what if she took over the White House? It's just like, guys, I'm here because Reese Witherspoon was funny in the first one. This is pretty bad. I do have a book. It's called I forget what it's called. I would have to look, but it's basically talking about the July 4th weekend that movie, Terminator 3, and Sinbad came out, and just basically going through all of the post-production and like the marketing of all of that, and how they brought so many like focus groups together for like Legally Blonde 2, and everybody's just like, yeah, this isn't funny. And they're like, shit, what do we do? But yeah, any final Lucky Stiff thoughts? I have a feeling nobody will have any.
I hated the music. You're right. The music made me so mad.
Yeah. I'm also curious. They say the expression of like, making like a Lucky Stiff I don't know if like that was like a common expression, but I had to look it up afterwards.
I had to look it up too.
A very lucky person. I feel like that title doesn't work if they don't explain it in the movie, or like I feel like that's or maybe last week, I a couple weeks ago when we were talking Ladies Club, I didn't know what a Tupperware party was. So maybe, Lucky Stiff is a meaning that was just like that I'm just not as familiar with. But it was like kind of scratching my head. Yeah.
Something I thought of last night, even though I mentioned earlier that this is barely a Christmas movie, I thought to myself, is this the worst Christmas movie I've ever seen? Not including like the Lifetime, like Hallmark ones, because
Saving Christmas.
Deck the Halls is really bad, from what I remember.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I never saw Saving Christmas. I never saw Deck the Halls.
This cannot compete with the worst holiday movie I've seen, which is Holiday in Handcuffs with Melissa Joan Hart and Mario Lopez.
Okay.
Whoa.
That sounds fake, but sure.
I need to look this up.
Melissa Joan Hart snaps and kidnaps Mario Lopez and takes him to her family Christmas dinner. It's a lot like this movie, actually.
It's a lot like Buffalo 66, honestly.
It's from the director of Tremors, Ron Underwood.
What?
Wow. How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
What else has my man Ron done?
Oh my god, this is an
Yeah.
Yeah.
They let my man make movies after that?
Wow, the poster of this is just...
Not really.
The poster of this is so morbid and macabre. She's literally like, he looks dead. She's just dragging him through the snow attached to a handcuff.
It's an evil movie. Yeah. It's a cruel film, for sure.
That's saying something, considering it doesn't look like there are cannibals in this one. Like unlike Lucky Stiff, the movie without the cannibals.
Lucky Stiff is a cruel movie, but only because they are just relentless about Joe Alasky's weight, which like he's moving like a spry guy. He's fine. Everyone just like leave him alone.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Holiday in Handcuffs is like deeply homophobic and
What?
Jeez.
very strange.
You're serious?
Yeah, I mean it's Melissa.
What?
Yeah, it's Melissa.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I thought she was in like 9 God's Not Dead movies, but I guess only one. Okay. I'm sorry.
Which
I'm sorry,
one?
Melissa Joan Hart. The second one, of course.
Okay.
Dodge
Yeah,
that bullet.
Directed by Harold Kronk, my bad.
Speaking of evil movies, The First God's Not Dead is truly one of the most hateful things I've ever seen in my life. like I got together with a friend and we drunkenly watched it, and like we were laughing for like 45 minutes, and then I'm pretty sure by like an hour, like by the time the movie was over, we were like horrified, like practically hiding under the couch type of thing. Like
That movie was filling every single movie theater in Oklahoma when I was graduating
Jesus
college.
Christ, I'm so sorry.
I mean, yeah, I can see that.
It was everywhere. It was like every screen, every
To
multiple.
give you a sense of the political climate from when I graduated high school. I graduated high school in 2017. In my religion class, we watched that movie and also PragerU videos.
You had to watch that you had to watch that in school?
Yes. Well, I went to I will say I went to a Christian high school, so like, you know, the God's Not Dead, I guess it makes sense watching it, but the PragerU thing, I was like, wow, what's this? And I'm watching it, and like 8 years later in college, I'm like, wow, thank God I didn't get indoctrinated with that. That is, oof.
There's gonna be kids like definitely in Oklahoma, because I'm pretty sure a few months ago when Sound of Freedom was coming out, that was like took over every theater. There's definitely gonna be kids watching Sound of Freedom in school, and that's just just advocating for homeschooling at that point. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at KevBonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at JDoyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CTNash91. Once again, thank you for listening.